Imagine trying to stop a war, right? Not with like a treaty or some televised summit,
Right, yeah.
but with just an acoustic guitar, a snare drum, and a crowd of 10,000 people singing the exact same words.
It's powerful, really powerful.
It is, because music has this, I don't know, this uncanny ability to bypass the intellect entirely and just hit you straight in the gut.
Oh, absolutely. It skips the logical brain completely.
Exactly, like a history book gives you the dates and, the casualty numbers. But a song captures the actual heartbeat, the fear, and the defiance of a moment in time.
Yeah, you feel it rather than just reading about it.
Right. So today, we are bringing you a deep dive into that specific kind of raw historical record. We're dissecting the 2025 folk rock album, Floating on Echoes, by the band The Velvet Sundown.
And it is a dense one. It's a 13-track album that, well, it operates much more like a novel than your traditional collection of songs.
For sure.
The band uses a very specific narrative arc, shifting tempos and instrumentation to really guide you, the listener, through this cohesive story.
So our mission today is to decode that story for you. We're going to examine how The Velvet Sundown uses vivid imagery and shifting musical mechanics to explore the gritty realities of war.
Right, and the domestic human cost of conflict, too.
Exactly. Plus the anatomy of collective protest. And finally, that haunting search for peace in the aftermath.
It's a heavy journey.
It really is. Now, before we start pulling these lyrics apart, we definitely need to set the stage for you. Floating on Echoes is unabashedly a protest record.
Highly political.
Very much so. Contains very strong anti-war and politically charged themes. So we want to make it explicitly clear right up front that the purpose of our deep dive is not to endorse these political viewpoints.
Right.
Or to take a side in any geopolitical debate, left or right. Our goal is strictly impartial. We're just here to analyze the artistic narrative, the musical choices, and the ideas presented in the band's original material.
Because what we are looking at is the architecture of the album. I mean, how does a group of musicians take something as vast and structurally complex as global conflict and distill it into a series of 4-minute audio experiences?
Yeah, how do they even do that?
That is the puzzle we are looking at today.
Okay, let's unpack this right from the very first notes of the album. Track 1 is called Rebel Shout. And wow, the band does not ease you in.
Not at all.
They drop you straight into the chaos. The opening imagery gives you, quote, boots in the mud and skies burning red.
Very visceral.
Yeah, and sonically, the guitars are just heavily distorted, the drums are frantic. And as I was reading through the lyrics of these early tracks, it felt like the band was employing almost like a split-screen effect.
Oh, that's a great way to describe it. It operates very much like a cinematic contrast.
Yes, because on one side of the screen, you have the visceral, dirty reality of the soldiers on the ground. You have the mud in Rebel Shout. And then later in track 3, Marching Shadows, the lyrics literally describe, quote, blood in the sand.
Which is the ground level view.
Right, that's the ground level view. But then, on the other side of this split screen, you have the detached, abstract political machinery pulling the strings. Like the band sings, truth slips away in American dreams. It highlights this massive disconnect between the policymakers sitting in pristine, quiet rooms drafting rhetoric and the people actually executing those policies in the mud.
What's fascinating here is how the band actively dismantles the traditional glorification of combat.
Right. They really tear it down.
Because if you look at standard wartime narratives, they heavily rely on the mythology of the hero.
But always. The hero archetype is everywhere.
Exactly. It's a fundamental tool for mobilizing a populace, right? It implies this glorious, transcendent sacrifice. But the Velvet Sundown strips that mythology entirely away in track 4, and the pain.
Yeah, that chorus really stuck with me.
The chorus contains the lyric, "Send no heroes, just the brave."
Send no heroes, just the brave. That is such a sharp distinction to make.
It really is. It reframes the entire psychological reality of the soldier. I mean, a hero is a statue. A hero is a concept tied to a parade and a shiny medal. But someone who is brave, that's simply a human being.
Just a person.
Exactly. They are likely terrified, trying to navigate the chaotic distortion and the blood in the sand you just mentioned, but they push forward anyway.
Yeah.
By asking to send no heroes, the lyrics are demanding that society stop using romanticized language to sanitize the horrors of combat.
And make it palatable.
Right. It emphasizes mere survival over any kind of ideological glory. So for anyone listening to this deep dive, just consider how often global conflicts are fed to us through sterilized buzzwords.
Oh, like strategic operations.
Yes, or surgical strikes or American dreams. The music uses its chaotic tempo and blunt lyrics to shatter that sterilization and force you, the listener, back to the ground level reality.
That split screen we've been talking about, though the battlefield on one side and the homeland on the other, it cannot stay separate forever.
No, eventually they collide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Eventually, those abstract political decisions crash right into intimate domestic realities.
Yeah.
The macro-level tragedy forces a micro-level response.
The collateral damage inevitably crosses the ocean.
And this is where I actually struggled a bit with the album's pacing, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We move into track 5, which is titled Back Home Never Came. The setting shifts entirely from the trenches to a living room. The song opens with the line, helicopters in the haze, which, sounds like a combat zone. But then it pivots immediately to Mama Cried by the Screen Door Light.
It's a jarring shift.
Totally jarring. And here is my issue with it. Protest anthems are supposed to fire you up, right? They're supposed to build momentum.
Usually.
But this track slows the tempo way down, strips away all the heavy distortion, and relies on this quiet, acoustic finger-picking.
It takes all the air out of the room.
It completely halted my momentum as a listener. So I have to ask you, why would a band intentionally the energy of their own protest album right in the middle? Does focusing on a quiet, isolated moment of a mother at a screen door actually serve an anti-war message better than a loud stadium anthem?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of human psychology, slowing the tempo down is actually the most devastating choice they could make.
Really? How so?
Because human beings are notoriously bad at comprehending large-scale tragedy. If a news report states that 10,000 people were lost in a conflict, the human brain processes that as a math problem.
Oh, that makes sense. It's just a number.
Exactly. It is too vast and abstract to actually feel. But one mother crying by a screen door, that is an instantly recognizable, deeply domestic image of grief.
Wow, yeah, you can picture that immediately.
Right. And the screen door itself is a threshold. It is the literal boundary between the safety of the American home and the chaotic outside world where those helicopters are hovering.
It's the place where you stand and wait for someone to come back.
Exactly. And the acoustic instrumentation leaves nowhere for the listener to hide. Without the heavy drums or distorted guitars, you are forced to focus solely on the vocal delivery, which becomes incredibly fragile and isolated.
It's just bare.
Track 5 personalizes the abstract casualty numbers by stripping away all the statistics. The lyrics read, "Back home never came, just a tag and a name."
Just a tag and a name.
Yeah. It is the tragic reduction of a complex human life, someone with memories, fears, and hopes, down to a piece of stamped metal.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. And the band then anchors this very intimate grief to their broader political critique with the line, "Fighting someone else's war, we don't know what we're dying for."
Right.
They are grounding the overarching political themes of the album in undeniable human empathy. You can debate foreign policy all day long, but you cannot debate the finality of a mother's permanent loss.
So it forces the listener to sit with the discomfort of that loss before allowing them the release of action.
Precisely.
And that action does come. How a society processes that profound, isolated grief is where the narrative pivots again. The mourning hits a critical mass, and it transforms into defiance.
The isolation turns into a movement.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting structurally. As we move out of that quiet acoustic space into tracks 2, 7, and 10, the tone shifts from despair into a literal call for peace.
The energy comes rushing back.
Oh, big time. Track 7, Dust on the Wind, features a chorus made entirely of commands like raise your hand, don't look away, sing out loud, make them pay, march for peace, not for pride.
So direct.
Very. And the musical arrangement here changes dramatically too. It sounds like the band brought an entire choir into the studio.
Yes, the layered vocals.
Yeah, the vocals are layered and communal. It feels structurally designed to simulate a crowd rather than just a solitary singer in a vocal booth.
And the instrumentation mimics the physical mechanics of a march.
Oh, I hear that.
You get this steady, thumping bass drum that acts as a collective heartbeat. You can see this structural design perfectly in track 2, Smoke and Silence.
Okay, track 2.
Between the lyrical calls to raise your voice, break the chain, the band inserts these long, wordless vocal interludes. In the liner notes, they are written out simply as oh.
Right, just those big open vowels.
Yeah. And from a songwriting perspective, those aren't just filler syllables, they are open invitations.
They are melodies designed to be belted out by a crowd of people who might not even know the verses yet.
Exactly. You just join in. This raises an important question, actually, about the fundamental role of music as a vehicle for social change.
Okay, how's it go?
Why is music so heavily intertwined with historical protests? Because singing together requires people to breathe together.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it physically synchronizes a crowd, turning thousands of isolated individuals into a single, cohesive organism.
That's incredibly powerful.
And the album repeatedly uses the motif of breaking silence to illustrate this. In track 3, they sing about tearing down the walls of the silent grave. And track 2, as we said, is titled Smoke and Silence.
Huh?
The narrative argues that the physical act of using one's voice, of literally vibrating the air and breaking the silence, is the primary weapon against the heavily funded machinery of war.
And the band makes it clear this isn't just about the immediate moment either.
No, it's forward-looking.
Yeah. In track 10, Freedom Song, there is a lyrical shift toward the future. The lyrics go, children learn to question why. So the collective vocalizing isn't just about stopping a single conflict. It is about an intergenerational awakening. It is about passing the mechanics of critical thought down to the next generation so that the unquestioning obedience that led to the blood in the sand in the first place, well, it cannot be weaponized again.
Right. Children learn to question why signals a cultural shift. The goal of the protest anthem is not just immediate peace, but shifting the baseline consciousness of a society.
So it doesn't repeat.
Exactly, so that future wars become exponentially harder to sell to the public. The song itself acts as the educational tool.
Which brings us to the aftermath. We've gone from the chaotic mud of the battlefield to the devastating quiet of the screen door to the loud communal roar of the protest march.
The full spectrum.
Yeah. But when the smoke finally clears, what actually remains? The album enters its final phase by exploring the psychological residue of conflict and the very fragile search for healing.
The narrative moves from the physical world into a deeply psychological space.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, as the album closes out? Sonically and lyrically, tracks 8, 11, and 12 are a massive departure from everything that came before.
Completely different vibe.
Yeah. Track 8, Drift Beyond the Flame, features almost dreamlike synthesizers and heavy reverb.
Super atmospheric.
Yes. The lyrics state, "In the stars we find our grace, far from war, far from place." And the analogy that comes to mind is the physiological response your body has after you leave an incredibly loud, intense rock concert.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right. You step out into the quiet parking lot, the heavy bass has stopped vibrating your chest, and you are left with this high-pitched ringing in your ears.
Contagious, yeah.
The silence isn't actually silent, it's echoing with the trauma of the noise. That is exactly what the production of these final songs feels like.
And that ringing in the ears is a perfect mechanical analogy for psychological trauma.
Wow, yeah.
It is the lingering effect of an intense event that you cannot simply switch off just because the event has technically ended.
It just stays with you.
Forever. The album's title track, Floating on Echoes, is built entirely around this concept. By definition, an echo is the remnant of a sound that has already occurred.
You can't change it.
Exactly. You cannot alter an echo. You can only experience its fading reflection. The lyrics in the chorus lean right into this disorientation. They go, float on echoes, ride the wave, colors blur in smoky haze, hold me close, then let me go. In this dream, we're never alone.
Notice how the band denies the listener a tidy, definitive victory lap there.
Yeah, there's no grand resolution.
None. There is no grand parade for the protesters, just as there was no grand parade for the soldiers. The conflict doesn't end with a sharp, victorious chord. It ends with a lingering resonance.
Which is so much more realistic. The overarching narrative finds its conclusion in track 11, The Wind Still Knows Our Name, with a weary but defiant realization, we are dust and we are flame.
Let's look closely at that line. We are dust and we are flame. It is a really heavy duality to end on.
It encapsulates the entire spectrum of the human condition that the album has just walked you through.
How so?
Well, dust represents the fragile, mortal aspect of humanity. It is the tragedy of the graves, the mud, and those metal dog tags we talked about.
The physical cost.
Right, it is what we inevitably return to. But flame represents the passion, the defiance, and the terrifying capacity for destruction.
It could be good or bad.
Exactly. A flame can provide the warmth of a domestic home, or it can be used to burn a city to the ground. By declaring we are dust and we are flame, the narrative is forcing an acceptance of human complexity.
It's all of the above.
It acknowledges that the exact same species capable of the horrors in Rebel Shout is also capable of the communal unity and freedom song.
Wow.
It is a survivalist's piece, surviving the storm but acknowledging you are permanently altered by it.
And that weariness, it's also reflected in how the band chose to structure the physical track list. We really need to touch on tracks 6 and 13.
Yes, the instrumentals.
Yes, both of these are purely instrumental pieces. Track 6 serves as a bridge, immediately following the emotional devastation of the mother at the screen door and back home never came.
Right.
And then track 13 closes out the entire album as an instrumental outro. By stripping the vocals away entirely in those specific moments, the band is doing something incredibly intentional for the listener.
They are providing necessary structured breathing room.
Exactly.
Because words, even beautiful poetic ones, they require cognitive processing. After delivering such heavy, emotionally taxing themes, the band uses the instrumental tracks as a musical equivalent to a moment of silence.
Just a pause.
Yeah. It allows the listener to process the weight of the grief and the adrenaline of the protests without being actively directed by a lyricist on what they should feel next.
It's letting that echo do the work.
Mm-hmm.
The ringing in the ears gets a moment to fade.
Perfectly said.
The journey this album takes you on really highlights why digging into source material like this matters so much. A standard historical overview can give you the dry facts.
The dates, the locations.
Right. It can explain the political treaties and the shifting borders. But a piece of art like Floating on Egos operates as an emotional time capsule.
It really does.
It captures how it actually felt to live through the paranoia, the communal anger, and the cautious, weary hope of a specific era.
It preserves the psychological truth of the people on the ground, which honestly often outlasts the geopolitical rhetoric of the era anyway.
So true. And as we wrap up this deep dive, there's a final thought I want you to mull over. It ties back to a lyric tucked near the very end of the album, "Truth still dances in my heart."
Mm-hmm.
We've spent this time analyzing how a 2025 folk rock band captured the anxieties and protests of their moment, acting as a mirror for their generation's emotional history.
Right.
So, if the truest historical record of an era is written in the chord progressions and lyrics of its protest songs, what will the music being written right now, the songs being uploaded and sung in this exact moment, say about the choices you and I are making today when someone listens to them decades from now?
An uncomfortable but deeply necessary question to consider.
Thanks for diving in with us.